betrayed by their allies? Why did the Blazing Flame Valley and the Flower Sect just stand by and watch as the Falling Star Pavilion faced 3 half-saints and the threat of annihilation? It was clear that Falling Star Pavilion only had Yao Lao as a high-level semi-saint. So, why did the Hall of Souls in alliance with the Minghe Alliance dispatch not just 1 but 2 high-level semi-saints and 1 low-level semi-saint, totaling 3 powerful semi-saint experts to attack the pavilion? Moreover, the news that the Minghe Alliance had sent a war declaration to Falling Star Pavilion had already spread throughout the Central Plains. Yet both Blazing Flame Valley, which had close ties with Xiao Yan and other forces such as the Pill Tower, who were on good terms with both Xiao Yan and Yao Chen, chose to stand by and do nothing. In fact, the reason the Hall of Souls deployed 3 semi-saints was twofold. First, both the Hall of Souls and the Minghe Alliance feared the hidden strength of Falling Star Pavilion and were determined to eradicate it completely. Although on the surface Falling Star Pavilion only possessed Yao Chen as a high-level semi-saint, the Hall of Souls was fully aware of their hidden power. As the top alchemist of the Central Plains, Yao Chen's soul power had reached the heavenly realm, allowing him not only to contend with other semi-saints, but even to overpower those of the same level. Furthermore, with his mastery of alchemy, he could use pills to instantly amplify his combat strength. In addition, Falling Star Pavilion had other formidable members. Little Dr. Fairy with her woeful poison body, Medusa Kailin, whose true form was the 7-colored heaven-swallowing python, Qinglin, who possessed the 3 snake pupils, and several others with unique constitutions. Although most were at the Dao Venerate level, each could unleash strength capable of challenging those above their rank. More critically, the Hall of Souls had already discovered that Xiao Yan was in seclusion, attempting to break through to the Do-Saint realm. What they didn't know was whether he had obtained the Bodhi Heart, which could instantly allow one to ascend to sainthood. If they sent only a small force, not only would it be difficult to quickly crush Falling Star Pavilion, but Xiao Yan might complete his breakthrough and join the battle. There was also the risk that allied factions would intervene upon hearing the news. Therefore, the Hall of Souls chose to send an overwhelming force, 3 semi-saints along with an elite army, to destroy Falling Star Pavilion before Xiao Yan emerged from seclusion and before reinforcements could arrive, completely eliminating any future threat. Secondly, the strength of the Minghe Alliance alone was insufficient to destroy the pavilion. This was also part of the Hall of Souls' hidden scheme. The Minghe Alliance was formed from various factions harboring grudges against Falling Star Pavilion, such as Heavenly Netherworld Sect and Ice River Valley. Their core power consisted only of Old Demon Tian Ming of the Heavenly Netherworld Sect, a single high-level semi-saint. On their own, they could never stand against the rapidly rising Falling Star Pavilion, especially after Yao Chen's breakthrough, which had attracted numerous experts to join. Thus the Hall of Souls sent 2 semi-saints to assist partly to compensate for Minghe's lack of power and ensure total victory, and partly to manipulate and control the Minghe Alliance from within. The Hall of Souls had long harbored ambitions to subjugate all major factions in the Central Plains. By providing aid, they could make the Minghe Alliance indebted, and after the war, gradually infiltrate or even dominate it, a strategic step toward their plan of suppressing all other great powers. Finally, this assault also served as revenge and a show of force. Previously, due to Xiao Yan rescuing Yao Chen, the Hall of Souls had lost an entire branch hall and many captured souls, a disastrous loss. In their subsequent attack on Falling Star Pavilion, Yao Chen, after becoming a semi-saint, slew numerous experts and even killed 3 heavenly venerates. These 2 humiliating defeats had tarnished the Hall of Souls' reputation and weakened the fear that other Central Plains factions once held toward them. The latest campaign was thus both retribution and an attempt to reassert dominance through blood. Thus this time, the Hall of Souls dispatched a luxurious formation of 3 semi-saints, not only to exact revenge upon Falling Star Pavilion, but also to proclaim its absolute dominance across the entire Central Plains, serving as a warning to all other factions daring to stir. As for the long-established powers in the Central Plains that had good relations with Falling Star Pavilion, such as the Flower Sect and Blazing Flame Valley, their refusal to come to the pavilion's aid was not due to ingratitude or broken bonds, but rather the result of their own limitations and the delicate political situation in the Central Plains at that time. Their decisions were grounded in strategic caution and self-preservation. Let's first look at it from the perspective of Blazing Flame Valley. Although Tang Zhen was a powerful figure and the nominal valley chief, his authority alone was not sufficient to make the decisive call to send reinforcements. In matters of great importance, decisions within the valley had to be discussed with the core elders, especially the Supreme Elder Huo Yun ancestor. At that time, Blazing Flame Valley, though a formidable faction in the Central Plains, was still cautious even with Huo Yun ancestor, a mid-level one-star Dao saint overseeing them. Facing an enemy lineup that included 3 semi-saints from the Mingyi Alliance and the Hall of Souls, any rash attempt to provide aid might not only fail to save Falling Star Pavilion, but could also invite destruction upon themselves. Moreover, before Xiao Yan's breakthrough to the Du Saint realm, Huo Yun ancestor had only heard of him by reputation. Although Tang Zhen had spoken highly of Xiao Yan's character and potential, the ancestor preferred to observe the course of the battle before committing, fearing that an early alliance could drag the valley into ruin. It wasn't until Xiao Yan successfully broke through to Do Saint and Falling Star Pavilion achieved a decisive victory that Huo Yun ancestor changed his stance. Upon learning that Xiao Yan had expressed his willingness to help resolve the hidden ailment within Huo Yun's body, regardless of whether Blazing Flame Valley joined the alliance, the ancestor immediately accepted the invitation. In essence, this was a calculated, pragmatic decision, rather than one driven purely by emotion. The flower sect's reasoning was, in truth, not much different from Blazing Flame Valley's. Though the sect had deep personal connections with both Xiao Yan and Yao Chen, their situation was equally precarious. Yun Yun had shared a long-standing bond with Xiao Yan since the days of the Jiama Empire. Xiao Yan had even gifted her a Bodhi seed, an item so precious that even peak-level Dao venerates coveted it. Additionally, the sect's supreme elder Xianxia, a high-level semi-saint, had a close friendship with Yao Chen. Yet the flower sect had long been oppressed by the heavenly netherworld sect, leaving them weakened. Though they possessed Xianxia as their sole semi-saint, they lacked sufficient Do venerate level experts. If they marched to aid Falling Star Pavilion alone, the Mingyi Alliance could easily split its forces and crush them. More importantly, internal divisions plagued the flower sect. Some elders feared that opposing the Hall of Souls might lead to their annihilation. It wasn't until Xiao Yan bypassed the semi-saint stage entirely and directly broke through to the one-star Du Saint realm, displaying overwhelming potential and unmatched might, that xianxia finally made her decisive choice to formally ally with Falling Star Pavilion. Finally, I want to emphasize that Xiao Yan's breakthrough to the Do Saint realm marks an event of monumental significance both in the novel and the animation. With the strength of a one-star Du Saint Xiao Yan, using only his self-created heaven-tier Du technique, Buddha's Wrath reincarnation, single-handedly obliterated half of the Minghe Alliance's elite forces. In one strike, he slew Old Demon Tianming and the 3 heavenly venerates, while also severely injuring Gu Yu, a semi-saint from the Hall of Souls. The vast disparity in power was overwhelming in front of a Du Saint. A semi-saint was no more than an ant. This battle completely shattered the Central Plains' long-held perception of semi-saints as invincible powerhouses, and it made the Hall of Souls realize that Xiao Yan had become an uncontrollable threat. After this life-and-death struggle, Falling Star Pavilion, which had been teetering on the brink of destruction, suddenly rose to become the focal point of the entire Central Plains. A flood of experts gathered under its banner, and its strength grew exponentially. Before Xiao Yan's breakthrough, the political landscape of the Central Plains was dominated by what was known as the One Hall. 1 tower, 2 sects, 3 valleys, and 4 pavilions. The Hall of Souls, backed by its overwhelming might, acted with unchecked arrogance, and no one dared to oppose it directly. However, after Xiao Yan became a Do Saint, he swiftly eradicated the remnants of the Minghe Alliance. Within a short time, he toppled over 20 sects, including Heavenly Netherworld Sect, Ice River Valley, and Wind Lightning Pavilion, completely destroying the foundation of the Mingyi Alliance and collapsing the old power structure. More importantly, with his dual identity as a Du Saint and an 8th-tier alchemist, Xiao Yan succeeded in forging an alliance among major factions such as the Pill Tower, Blazing Flame Valley, and Flower Sect, forming the powerful Tianfu Alliance. This superpower, boasting multiple Dao saints, numerous semi-saints, and hundreds of Dao venerates, became the only force in the Central Plains capable of opposing the Hall of Souls, laying the groundwork for the future war against the Hun clan. Previously, the Hall of Souls had used its terrifying strength to either force other factions into submission or silence them through fear. But after Xiao Yan's breakthrough, he single-handedly shook the entire Hall of Souls, slaying their semi-saint experts and even during the pursuit of the heavily wounded Gu Yu, forcing a Do Saint of the Hall of Souls to intervene personally. This feat, overcoming the strong while being the weaker side, shattered the myth of the Hall of Souls' invincibility and ignited a spirit of resistance across the Central Plains. One by one, oppressed factions began to join the Tianfu alliance, uniting under a single cause to defy the Hall of Souls. In doing so, Xiao Yan completely overturned the previous era of fragmented, isolated powers, transforming chaos into unity. Therefore, this battle in which Xiao Yan ascended to the Dou Saint realm was not just a personal milestone, but the turning point that changed the fate of the entire Central Plains. What do you think about this pivotal moment?